While you've been watching wars in the Middle East, Epstein files being released, and UFO disclosures on mainstream media, the biggest wealth transfer in human history is happening right underneath your nose. And BlackRock is leading the charge to tokenize the global securities market, which is a sector that analysts are valuing upwards of $100 to $300 trillion onto blockchain technology. And Iran's central bank is the last obstacle standing in their way. And in the next few short minutes, I'm going to show you exactly what's coming, when it's coming, and how to position yourself before the digital cage locks and shuts. So comment 777 if you're feeling blessed, if you're feeling bullish, and let's run it. All right, bull runners, welcome back to the channel. So while you guys have been watching the wars in the Middle East, Epstein files being released, UFO disclosures all across social media, the biggest wealth transfer in human history is happening behind closed doors. And in this video, we're going to uncover what's taking place because BlackRock announced a while back that they're planning to tokenize the entire 100 trillion to 300 trillion securities market on the blockchain. And Iran's central bank is the last obstacle standing in their way. Now, I know what you're thinking. Nick, what does Iran have to do with my crypto portfolio? And the answer is everything. Because what's happening right now isn't about nuclear weapons. It's not about terrorism. It's not even about oil. It's about total control. It's about moving every dollar, every stock, every bond, every asset that you own onto one common blockchain where they can control who can buy, who can sell, and who can access their wealth. And this year is when their secret agenda and their plan goes full steam ahead. So in the next few short minutes, I'm going to show you exactly what's coming, when it's coming, and how to position yourself before it's too late. So buckle up, guys. This is going to blow your mind. Let's start with the facts here. On multiple occasions, Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock, the largest asset manager on the planet with over $10 trillion under management, has publicly stated that they are moving the entire global securities market onto distributed ledger technology. Now, that's not $10 billion. That's not even $100 billion. That's $100 to $300 trillion. Think about that for a second. Every stock, every bond, every ETF, every single mutual fund tokenized on the blockchain. Now, here's what most people don't understand because they're too caught up in the day-to-day price action on the charts for different cryptocurrencies, so they think it's not taking place. And when they say tokenization, they're not talking about making things more efficient or cutting costs. They're talking about programmable money. That's money that knows who you are, money that knows what you buy, and money that can be turned off with the click of a button. Think about it. If your dollars, your stocks, your savings, and everything that you own exists on a blockchain that's controlled by either central banks or institutions like BlackRock, well, they don't need to freeze your bank account anymore. They just revoke your wallet permissions. So you wouldn't be able to buy, you can't sell, you can't even access what's supposedly yours if they decide it. And this isn't some dystopian future that I'm making up here. This is documented. The Federal Reserve migrated to ISO 222 messaging standard back in July of 2025. The global banking system completed its ISO 222 transition in November of 2025 and has a new plan that virtually nobody knows about with a few final dates this year to pay close attention to. And according to the World Economic Forum's own documents, the goal is a global future council on financial and monetary systems by 2030. That's one world order, one world taxation, one world money. And it's all being built right now behind closed doors. So what does Iran have to do with any of this? And the answer is everything, because Iran's central bank is one of the last major economies on earth that is not integrated into the Western financial system. Iran was largely disconnected from SWIFT in 2012 and 2018 due to sanctions. They have since been developing their own alternative, SEPAM, and linking it with Russia's SPFS system, meaning they're not on SWIFT, they're not using the dollar for international trade, and they're definitely not adopting programmable CBDCs controlled by the IMF. They're like a wild card. They've gone completely rogue. And that's a problem for the architects of the Great Reset, because you can't have a global financial system if one of the world's largest oil producers is operating outside of it. Think about it like this. If you're building a digital cage for the entire world, you need to own the key for every single door. And Iran has the last unlocked door. And that's why, despite what the media is going to tell you, this conflict isn't about nuclear weapons. It's about total financial control. Because once Iran's financial system is neutralized, whether through war, sanctions, or regime changes, there will be no major economy left that can operate outside of the programmable money system that's coming. And when that happens, according to certain people, all value flows into two places. One of those is precious metals like gold and silver, and that's why we've seen the recent run up in those precious metals recently. And number two would be certain ISO 222 cryptocurrencies, because according to some people across social media that have been digging up the information, and us included that have been covering it on this channel, those are the assets that will bridge the old system to the new one. But we need to dive even deeper, and we need to talk about the technical infrastructure that makes all of this possible, and that's ISO 222. So if you've been following this channel, you already know what that is. But for those who are new, let me break it down for you in a way that you would understand. ISO 222 is the new global messaging standard for financial transactions. It's basically the language that banks, central banks, and payment processors will use to communicate with each other, because the old system, it's slow. A lot of these banks don't have interoperability. They struggle to transact with each other and communicate across different jurisdictions. And to be able to move forward in a new economy where money goes from 3 to 5 days from an ACH or wire transfer to 3 to 5 seconds, it's not optional here. The Federal Reserve actually completed a single day Big Bang migration of its Federal Reserve Fund Service, which is basically the US high value wire transfer system that's handling roughly $4.7 trillion daily, over to the ISO 222 messaging standard back in July 14th of 2025. And then SWIFT, which is the global banking network, completed its migration on November 22nd of 2025. And as of late 2025, ISO 222 became the exclusive standard for cross-border payments worldwide, with major institutions fully on it and the upgrades continuing to roll out throughout 2026. Now, here's where it gets really interesting and why we're still early despite last year's milestones and major fundamental developments behind the scenes. Because if you scroll through crypto Twitter, Reddit threads, YouTube comments, or even CoinMarketCap's ISO 222 coins category that pop up, late 2025, you'll see the same names coming up over and over again. That's Ripple XRP, Stellar's XLM, Hedera's HBAR, Algorand, XDC Network, even Cardano, you name it. And everyone on social media, from big accounts to everyday holders, is calling these the bridge currencies that will connect the old financial system to the new tokenized world. And they're saying things like XRP is the bridge for cross-border liquidity in the ISO era. XLM and HBAR are built for enterprise, tokenization, CBDC rails, you name it. These aren't random altcoins. They're the ones designed to handle programmable money flows once banks fully integrate the standard. Now, the real question is this all just hype to push a narrative, or is there real smoke here that we need to be paying attention to? Because look, there's no official ISO 222 certification stamp from the standards body for these cryptocurrencies. It's a messaging format, not a coin approval process. But what is documented is that these projects have built compatibility, structured data support, focusing on interoperability with banks, partnerships with institutions, and features that map to a richer ISO messaging standard for payments, trade finance, and tokenized assets that integrate with BlackRock's secret plan. And sources like Tangum Codex, Crypto News, and even community lists on Reddit keep putting XRP, Algorand, XLM, HBAR, XDC, and sometimes others like Quant or ADA at the top of the ISO 222 ready or aligned coins in 2026 list. And Ripple's been in the ISO registration management group since 2024. XDC is tailored to trade finance messaging, and Hedera's enterprise council includes heavyweights that are some of the largest companies out there. And Stellar working on CBDC pilots, the list goes on and on and on. So while the full trillions of dollars in tokenized flows explosion hasn't hit the prices yet on the open market, I made a video about this talking about dark pools, OTC deals, and what institutions are doing to quietly accumulate certain assets behind the scenes, because banks have been testing slowly. Compliance layers take time. Real adoption ramps in phases that's happening through 2026. And we still have major legislation that needs to pass for the crypto market that institutions are working on and they're waiting for. And the narrative is everywhere. These could be the infrastructure plays that survive and thrive when programmable money and tokenized securities go mainstream. So That's the buzz. That's what people are positioning for right now. But let's get to the truth of what's actually happening behind the scenes and why we haven't seen, the God candles or the Giga Chad candles for the 10x pumps yet post 2025 ISO migration, and how you can separate the noise from the truth and know what to do for your portfolio. Because you might be asking, if this is all true, why isn't everyone publicly talking about it? Well, it's because they're using the oldest trick in the book. That's distraction. Think about it. In the last 12 months alone, we've had wars in the Middle East, Epstein client list being leaked, not only leaked, but hundreds and thousands of documents being put out there all at once. At the same time, UFO hearings in Congress, AI taking over the world with Claudebot, ChatGPT, and political scandals every single week to cloud your judgment, so that way you're focused on that stuff while they're doing something completely different behind the scenes. And every single one of those stories dominates the news cycle for weeks, so nobody cares about what's happening in the financial system. Why? Well, it's because it's boring, nerdy tech talk. But you know what doesn't get covered? The Federal Reserve migrating to ISO 222, BlackRock tokenizing upwards of 100 to 300 trillion in assets, the IMF publishing documents about trust bridges and digital ledger technology. Because if the masses understood what was really happening, well, they would panic, they'd freak out, they'd pull their money out of the banks, they'd buy gold, they'd buy silver, and they'd buy crypto. They'd position themselves before the reset while the market is in a bear market. Whereas most retail investors, they run from the markets in a bear market and they come back when it's too late to buy the top. Now, the elite, they can't have that because the whole system depends on you being the last person to know. And while retail is panic selling during crashes, institutions are accumulating. We've been tracking their wallets. We've been paying close attention to the dark pools, the OTC deals. And while retail is chasing, 100x meme coins, institutions, what they are doing is they are earning yield on blue chip assets. While retail is gambling, institutions, they're compounding their wealth and setting up infrastructure. And the gap between the two, it's getting wider every single day. Now, here's what I want you to understand. If you're watching this video and you're still trying to navigate this transition all by yourself, you're going to get left behind, because the difference between the investors who survive the Great Reset, that is like a domino effect, one piece of information at a time, are the ones who have access to the institutional grade information. And then the ones who get wiped out isn't about intelligence. It's about having a plan that develops infrastructure for their portfolio and their investing strategy, because the elite aren't scrambling to figure out which coins to buy or when to sell, because they have teams of analysts, access to institutional grade research, and systems that compound through full market cycles, whether it's a bull market, a bear market, or ranging market. While retail investors, they're still arguing on Twitter about what's happening with the Epstein list and stuff in Iran, debating each other, not focusing on the number one most important scoreboard metric, which is how much money they have in their portfolio to buy back their time and to buy back their freedom for themselves, for their family, and for their future. Which means if you want to stop being, the exit liquidity and start positioning yourself like the smart money do, you need the same level of infrastructure and researchers that the institutions have. And that's exactly what's inside of the Altcoin Pro Accelerator program. You don't just get altcoin picks and hope for the best here and spray and pray with your portfolio. You're shown how the institutions are building their portfolios that survive the Great Reset. You'll learn which coins are positioned for institutional adoption based on real on-chain liquidity flows. You'll learn how smart money is earning passive yield on their idle holdings without needing to sell their crypto while the system transitions. And we're going to give you the exact same framework that the top 1% use to protect their wealth during financial resets. That way they can secure, grow, and scale their portfolio to maximize their upside and minimize their downside. So if that sounds cool, what I want you to do is this. If you have at least $50,000 in crypto right now, and you're tired of just guessing which way the market is going to move up, down, or sideways, and you're tired of guessing what to do with your bleeding assets, I want you to click the first link in the description below, watch the short walkthrough video that I made showing you everything that's inside of the accelerator, and then book your free passive income strategy call with either me or an expert on my team, because we're going to walk you through everything. We'll audit your portfolio. We'll show you where areas that you might be missing right now with your portfolio, your strategy, your diversification, your yield, you name it, and we'll show you exactly what we see happening in the markets right now so you can make your own educated decision. Because as always, these videos, they're not financial advice. We're not telling you what to buy or sell here in these videos. They're purely to show you the data, the facts, and the evidence so you can come to your own conclusion. Because yes, crypto's risky if you don't know what you're doing. And I always say results aren't typical, so don't be typical. You're watching this video so you can get the slight edge. So if you're still chasing, meme coins out there, if you're still hoping to get rich quick in crypto, if you're still gambling, this isn't for you. But if you're ready to build real wealth right now, if you're ready to survive the Great Reset, if you're ready to become the smart money, then click the link below and I'll see you on the call. Now, let's talk about what happens when the system actually goes live. And when does all this actually happen? Because people are waiting for a switch flip, where everything just goes up in value. Because let me give you the exact timeline. This is what actually is happening based on the official announcements and milestones that we can all verify right now. Back in July 14th of 2025, the Federal Reserve completed the single-day migration of its Fedwire fund service over to ISO 222 messaging standard. And that was the moment the US high-value payment system, the one that moves trillions of dollars every single day, officially switched. They retired the old proprietary format and went full ISO 222, which is richer data, better automation, and the foundation for everything that's coming in the future. It's done in one clean move. November 22nd, 2025, Swift ended the coexistence period with the old MT messaging standard. And from that day forward, ISO 222 became the exclusive standard for cross-border payments and reporting worldwide. That's every single bank. And that's when Swift, the European Central Bank, the Bank of England, and the major financial institutions globally locked it in. And any banks that are still waiting to lock that in will happen by the end of this year. And cross-border infrastructures now run entirely on the new format. The old language is gone, the rails are upgraded, and the infrastructure switch is complete. And by the end of 2025, BlackRock significantly expanded its tokenized money market fund, which is their Buildle fund, and they added multi-chain support for Solana, BNB, Arbitrum, Avalanche, Polygon, and Optimism, and they even made it usable as collateral on Binance for qualified institutional clients. Now, if you're not an institutional client, pay close attention because there's a reason why they added those chains. If you don't know how to use them, then what you need to do is book a strategy call with my research team through the link below, and we will walk you through it all step by step so you can have a better understanding how to navigate those chains. Because this wasn't a brand new platform launch from scratch. This was a massive step forward in showing institutions how tokenized real-world assets actually work in practice. And the proof of concept is live and it's scaling right now. So moving forward this year, 2026, going into April, all the way to 2030, we're now in the phase where programmable payments and full tokenized asset infrastructure is going to continue to scale and roll out. And the European Central Bank is targeting potential issuance of digital euros around 2029, assuming regulations pass this year, which they're likely to do. The Fed and other major central banks are running wholesale pilots and cross-border experiments, and retail CBDCs in places like the US are still facing legislative roadblocks that they have to work through. But the direction is clear. Programmable features, tokenized securities, and digital money at scale are being built one step at a time. Now, here's the thing I want you to burn into your brain right now. This isn't guesswork here. These aren't conspiracy forum dates. These are actual milestones published by the Federal Reserve, Swift press releases, BlackRock investor updates, the ECB progress reports, and global CBDC trackers. The big infrastructure switch happened in 2025. The rails are already live. The testing and compliance layers are now running through 2026. And the real value unlock, when trillions start flowing through these systems and prices start to reflect it, well, that's what's ramping up behind closed doors. So the question isn't, did I miss it? Or is it even going to happen? The questions are you positioned before the next wave of liquidity hits after this bear market is over? And what assets are you accumulating when virtually nobody cares about crypto? So let's talk about what you actually do with this information and how to position yourself. Because from April of 2026 this year, moving forward is when the reset goes full steam ahead. So here's the framework. Asset class number one, that's precious metals. That's gold and silver. They've been money for over 5,000 years. They can't be programmed. They can't be turned off. They can't be confiscated digitally. You just have to secure it physically. And according to analysts like Jim Rickards, I made a video about what he was saying over a year ago, and it is absolutely mind-blowing, because if the dollar loses reserve currency status and we return to some type of gold-backed system, gold would need to be priced, he's saying, over $27,000 per ounce just to back the current money supply with how much money is now out there in circulation through, M0, M1, and M2. Well, that's not hype. That's the math there. Asset class number two, which is very specific, cryptocurrencies, which is basically like the stock market back in the 1920s and 1930s. It's still early. And here's where a lot of the conversation is happening online and what it's talking about, what everyone is discussing. Because if you dig into the crypto Twitter, Reddit threads, Coindex lists, different blogs and crypto news roundups out there, even Kraken's own categories from early 2026, the same names keep popping up as the ones that communities and analysts believe are positioned to bridge the old system to the new tokenized world. That's Ripple's XRP, Stellar's XLM, HBAR, Algorand, XDC, and a few other cryptocurrencies. I'll let you leave the comments below for which ones you guys believe are going to be those cryptos. There's quite a few, but the vast majority are most likely going to go away and slowly bleed to zero over time. So you do not want to be holding those if you want to preserve your wealth long term. And the buzz is that these aren't just random altcoins. They're the projects with messaging compatibility, institutional partnerships, and features that map to a richer ISO 222 data flow in the new financial system. So, for example, Ripple in the ISO 222 registration management group, that's how they position themselves to dictate the rules for the future programmable money flows. XDC is focusing on trade finance messaging. Hedera's council has Google, IBM, Boeing, and Stellar is working on CBDC pilots, and Algorand is emphasizing financial interoperability as well. So, are these assets guaranteed? No. No one has a crystal ball here, and it's not an official ISO 222 certified coin stamp. It's a messaging standard. It's not a coin approval process like I just said. But the narrative is very, very strong in the space. These could be the infrastructure plays that survive and also capture value as tokenized assets and programmable payments scale during the next bull run. And then you also have Bitcoin, which is coined as digital gold. Bitcoin is the hardest money ever created, apparently. Fixed supply of 21 million. It's decentralized, censorship resistant, and it's most likely that Bitcoin won't be the go-to for everyday payments in the new system because it's slow and there's better assets to send money like XRP, but it's a store of value for anyone who wants to opt out and hold something outside of programmable control or the US dollars or even like gold. Some people don't even like holding physical assets. They want something that they can liquidate quickly. Even real estate takes forever to liquidate. So it brings the next question up. Well, that's what should you avoid? Well, that's meme coins, that's pure hype coins, anything without real utility or institutional backing as a part of your long-term holding. Because when adoption